Hey everyone. I had a pretty long day and I have a headache right now, but regardless, let's talk a little bit more about the future of IT and future of engineering, particularly software engineering. Um, I wasn't expecting to get this many comments because I normally don't, but I read all of it and a lot of you have excellent points and a lot of things that I want to talk about with you. So let's get into it. Ria Gajar, who this original video was for, says, "Thank you for making this special video and addressing my questions so thoroughly. Your insights on how AI affects the IT job market and the advice to gain hands-on experience. Yes. Through nonprofit projects that really opened my eyes. I also appreciate the tips on resume formatting and finding opportunities at my university. Very important. I plan to follow your advice and focus on real-world experience and networking as I continue my studies. Yes. Um, so as a recap of what I talked about in the last video, it's very important that you get practical, real world experience. But many people only think about going to GitHub and contributing to open source projects. I'm not saying that's bad. It's good. It's really good. There's actually many, many good open source projects. They're going to have some smaller tickets that anybody can work on, right? So I'll talk a little bit more about that actually. So you can work on those. Of course, that's really nice. But it's really nice when your work actually means something to people, right? You know, when you work on, especially since Ria is a data person, especially if you're working on a data set, like yeah, anybody can make up a bunch of hypotheses and fit all these linear regression models on sample data, like, the Boston real estate market data from like the 70s or something. Anybody can do that. But it doesn't really mean anything to you because the data doesn't really mean anything to you personally. But if you go to a nonprofit that, does, good meditation projects for like imprisoned people, and you get to look at their expenses and you can, do data analysis on the best itinerary for the state of Florida, how you can travel around to like optimize your expenses. That's something that can really help the business, right? Nonprofit business. Or if you're running like if you happen to meet a nonprofit that deals with the mental health of teenagers, and you have a lot of biographic data that's anonymized, right? And you can do some analysis on what neighborhood is responsible for like all of these like symptoms that the society might have. Like these are really good data points that mental health nonprofits can use, right? And if you look at Trevor Project, they do a lot of data analysis like this. So when you work with real data sets that actually mean something to people, it actually becomes a really lot more meaningful to you. And when you talk about it in your projects, when you talk about it in your interviews, you're gonna have a lot of confidence talking about it because it actually means something to you. Because whereas talking about Boston real estate prices and fitting like a K nearest neighbor model on some other, flower data set, like, yeah, sure, like you did scikit-learn, okay, cool, but like it doesn't really mean anything to you. Even the one that you did it, but it doesn't really mean anything to you because it's just like doing practice, right? So yes, and in terms of finding work, finding university jobs it's just so good. Actually, and the universities usually have career centers that help you with this kind of stuff. So uh, hope you can take advantage of that. Deadbite says, "I love it a lot. I haven't been learning it enough for 3 years due to IRL stuff. Sometimes I just forget about it for a long time. Things take too much time with me because I just take every single thing I don't understand and look it up. The issue is every single thing becomes a rabbit hole. So yeah, move real slow. I haven't made anything cool because I spread myself thin by jumping from one thing to another out of curiosity, web development, low-level CS networking. But the thing is, my friend Deadbite, you're eventually gonna need all of it. And the thing is, the only way to learn these is one by one, right? And the really when it comes down to the bottom line, the one advice I have for you is that this is not a problem. Right now, because you don't understand everything, you need to look it up. Because what's gonna happen when you skim over things? you're not going to be able to do anything because you don't know what it means. So, for example, I'm learning French these days, right? I'm at the level where I can reasonably assume what the other person means by listening to them, although I don't understand them 100%. But in order for me to be at this level, I needed to look at the dictionary so many times. And sometimes, you know what really pisses me off, even to this day, is I have to look up the same word and the same phrase over and over and over and over because I look it up and then I forget. I don't commit into my main memory. But that's fine. Why? Because the next 5 times, the next 10 times, somewhere along the line, it's gonna land in your mainframe memory. So yes, you're moving really slow, but really, it's the only speed that you can be in right now. And that's fine. If you were looking at web development and then you went to studying Chinese and then you looked at how to make dumplings by hand and then you went to train jujitsu, then I would be like, maybe it's time to focus on one thing. But the thing is, web development, when you do web development and you get to a certain level, you're gonna need to understand how low level code works, especially when you're working with the front end and you're like dealing with compiler um issues and maybe you're doing like some back end work and you're dealing with like Golang and other popular Rust. These are some low level things that you have to learn, right? And you know how many you know how many people there are in the industry who actually know low level? It's very little. So when you know low level, it's even if it may be a little bit, it actually ends up becoming a very, very big career advancement opportunity because you know low level. Computer science, I mean, even though you don't really use computer science per se on an engineering project, in America, you kind of need to know CS to pass the interviews, right? So you do need it. Networking, yeah, again, do you know how many people actually don't really understand networking, me included? When you know networking and you can like read egress tables and like you can configure VPCs and things like that, do you know how advantageous that's gonna be to you in the long run? So for you, I understand the frustration. Why? Because I think you have a bit of ADHD or like you have that kind of an experience of ADHD, and I know it can be very frustrating. But what I can really tell you after a career over like 10 years is that all the things that you are looking at, you kind of need to know at the end. And how you're approaching it is kind of the only way you can approach it. But you feel like there needs to be a better way. But I'm telling you, there isn't any. So what I can say to you is you're doing the right thing. So keep moving without worrying too much. And that's the advice I have for you. SB, my friend on Discord as well. I'm watching this video as a new grad and my uni experience was a fever dream. I feel like I didn't learn enough, which has led to me not being skilled and low-key losing passion for tech, even though I still have an interest in it. Like there's a couple things I would like to build for fun, but I'm trying to overcome this bottleneck. So, SB, I went to one of the best engineering schools in the world, right? I not only have a bachelor, I not only have a bachelor degree in computer science, I also have a master's degree in computer science. But when I first joined the workforce, I still felt underprepared. Why? This is something that I think is changing a little bit in the recent days. But computer science and software engineering are very, very, very different things. You could be the best computer scientist, but you can still kind of suck as a software engineer. You can be the best software engineer, but you can still kind of suck at computer science, which is why even the best people, even the best engineers, they need to review a lot of the computer science if they want to pass interviews. So, yes, are there people who are truly exceptional and do both at the same time? They're good at both? Yeah, sure. But that's like me playing golf and then feeling bad because I'm not Tiger Woods, right? So what we have to understand is 90% of the people, 80% of the people that you are going to deal with on a regular basis, right? Like have the same exact experience with you. Why? Because they all graduated computer science. But it doesn't prepare you enough for software engineering. For example, I think they might lately, but they don't teach you QA in college, nor should they, right? But when I joined software engineering workforce, I didn't know anything about test-driven development. I didn't know anything about behavior-driven development. And I didn't know anything about like the static code analysis. I didn't know anything about like coverage. I didn't know anything about continuous integration, continuous deployment. Nor should you learn that stuff in school. It has nothing to do with academics. School prepares you for an academic career so that you can be a professor in computer science, which is very different from a software engineer. You have to understand that the tracks are very different, which is why I think a lot of people have the boot camps these days for software engineering as well, right? But SB, bottom line that I have for you is that this is normal. I went through the same thing 10 years ago, and I understand. Like you feel that you definitely feel underprepared, but the thing is, everybody feels underprepared, and they should because there's like the level of software engineering education there is, at least in the time that I graduated, it was very lacking. When in comparison to the real world. And the good development practices, these are things that you like how to use Git, how to use version control, and how to write clean code. These are all things that you learn on the field, unfortunately. So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't feel like you didn't do a good enough job at school. Don't feel discouraged that you're not educated enough. You're educated plenty. It's fine. It's just that the industry just has a little bit of a learning curve. But same thing I would say for you. It's important to find the project that you're passionate about. So when I was in school, I really liked music. So there used to be this software called Last FM, and it was a music analysis tool, and I did a lot of like free code writing around that. And I also was really interested in web development and creating like like we call them homepages in Korea. But like I was really deep into making websites and then using PHP to like make these community boards, and that was a whole era of my life where I had just a lot of fun writing code. So I want you to look at the things that you're actually interested in. Sure, you're not interested in things that are strictly related to job searches and everything, but there's still something has to interest you. And the world of open engineering has improved a lot. So I'm sure you can find a project that you are happy to work on, and that's important. This is, I think, the interesting uh, comment today. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like interns and juniors are hired because companies need them to do a lot of work. Duh. But a lot of the actual orchestration and the more technical aspect of that work, maybe in planning or architectural sense, are done by higher roles like senior engineers in higher positions. So then, in my mind, I'm thinking senior engineers are augmented with AI to do the grunt work interns and junior engineers did. Now, would you want to hire more senior engineers, not interns? Because what's the point is there in risking a lot of money to hire interns who probably only know how to vibe code some basic apps? Senior engineers already know how, so you just shift their roles to do what they have already done and more, essentially reducing the need for interns and junior engineers. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're a new grad, unless you've gone above and beyond, why would you be hired? You're a new grad competing against senior engineers who are looking for jobs as well. So excellent. Yes. In particular, it sounds a little bit harsh, but I think why would you be hired? This is a question that I don't think people ask themselves in earnest enough. Why should you hire me? I think being able to actually answer that with a straight face is a lot of the bulk of the work, because we kind of feel like we need to apply for jobs. We kind of feel like we're obligated to do these things. So when asked with the question like, why should we pick you over another competitor? You don't really feel confident to say, well, I have better experience in this, and I know I have a good work ethic. Like we as job applicants, we're not really good advocates for ourselves because we don't have the confidence. And we don't have the confidence because we don't really stop and think about, yeah, why the fuck should they hire me? Right? And if you're not coming up with the answer for that question, then it's time to actually think about, okay, so what do I need to work on so that I can be confident in the job finding process, right? And it turns out when you have that confidence, you don't really need other jobs validations to like make you feel like you're worth something in the workforce. The confidence that you grow by engaging with yourself is actually what's really priceless in the long run when you build your career. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about your primary point being now senior engineers are augmented with AI. You're absolutely right. But the thing is, the last position I worked at was at Disney, right? And Disney is a humongous company. It's ridiculously big. And I worked at the studios data team, right? So, do you know how big the studios is? And do you know how many departments there are just in studios, which is just one small part of the entire Disney corporation? So, yes, senior engineers are augmented with AI, but the sheer volume of work that requires like execution, it is completely unreasonable to expect that one engineer can do it. So a lot of the times it's like this. Well, I occasionally volunteer at the animal shelter in Los Angeles, and and, and our shelter I think is pretty well funded, right? So there are resources, and also there's like a big Chewy truck that comes from that comes every once in a while. Chewy is like a online pet supply store, and we get handed off like a giant truck of donations, right? Now, at that time, what you don't need is like a robot. What you don't need is like a really powerful machine that can unload things. You just need a lot of people. And I think this is the part that if you're not in the industry and if you don't know how a company usually functions, how a company of 100 people, how a company of 1,000 people, how a company of 10,000 people actually operate at that scale, it's a little bit difficult to imagine um, why you would hire junior people. Yes, we know exactly what needs to be done, just like the Chewy truck. Yes, there's this truck full of donated stuff. We need tons of people to actually unload it from the truck and get it into the shelter in the right shelves and everything, right? In the right shed, in the right compartments. That needs a lot of people. So yes, are they just doing grunt work that all the senior engineers could be doing? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, um, you this is something that you will experience in the workforce, but diversity is actually very critical to a successful workplace. So when you have more team members, and assuming the team culture is good, and assuming that the organization is run well, you are going to really benefit from having a lot of people having a lot of different opinions and perspectives. It's going to really make your organization flexible. It's going to make your organization very resilient. And it's going to be working at that kind of an organization is so much better than working at an organization where everybody is kind of the same person, right? Because you experience the same type of error. You experience the same kind of pitfalls. Because why? You all think alike. So having a diverse team is actually very, very important. And so hiring many junior engineers and interns is actually very beneficial for the organization as well, aside from doing a lot of work. Now, unfortunately, I do have to say, some organizations are not run well. But even that is a learning experience because you can think, wow, that fucking sucked. So in the next interview, you can say, "What's the culture like here?" And how many, like, what are the engineering teams like? Is it all engineers, or is it like a mixed team per product or something like that? So it informs your future decision making when it comes to your careers. So really, you can't lose, right? And something I said I would come back to in the earlier comment about doing, nonprofit work, right? Um, yeah, you just I forgot the train of thought because I've been talking so much. But basically what I'm saying is you definitely need a lot of hands on deck to do the work that a large corporation does. And senior engineers are also looking for jobs, but that's a different competition pool. And I don't think the advice in this video really matters for that. But regardless of you, whether you're a junior or a senior, what's still important, in my opinion, is like, why are you in software engineering? Why do you do it? And there's so many software engineers out there. Why should they hire me? I want you to be able to answer that question. Not you specifically, Black Banana Pineapple, but in general, I want everybody to be able to answer. Why do I do software engineering? Why should you hire me? I want you to be able to. I want you to be confident in telling me, Billy, you should hire me because blah 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 blah. That's what I do as a life coach, right? Like I'm like, why should I work with you as my life coach? I'm like, I can give you so many answers for that because I'm the only one I know that runs a unique coaching program like I do that's focused on suffering. And I have plenty of experience from my life experience from my dad's hypnotherapy practice and blah 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 and so on, right? And this kind of a confidence is what really translates to success in the workplace and, to be more honest, in life as well. You know what you're about. And when you know what you're about, like, you won't really have a lot of worries. Rick Rim too. I'm interested to work for free, but problem is nobody is interested. So this is kind of the harsh reality. But just because you want to work, it doesn't. Just because you're willing to work for free, it doesn't mean that people are necessarily going to line up to hire you, right? It is when people hire, it's also kind of a risky thing, right? And I think you will understand this when you get into the workforce and you earn enough seniority where you actually interview people. Hiring comes with a lot of risk, and hiring is actually really, really hard. Finding the right candidates is hard, interviewing them is really hard. After that, negotiating them is hard. And then when they come in, onboarding is really hard. Making sure they're happy enough to not quit after onboarding, that's really hard. So you have to understand that people are usually not looking for people who want to work for free. They're not like actively like, oh my god, you're gonna work for free, let me hire you like right off the spot, because that process is kind of risky too, especially these days. There's a lot of data that's like confidential and private but needs a lot of work on, right? So um just like that. You have to understand that from the hiring perspective, you need to do a little bit more work to promote yourself. You need to kind of like speak up for yourself. You need to tell people like why you're trustworthy, why you can entrust, why they can entrust their projects with you. These are the things that employers want to know before they hire you, whether you're gonna be paid by them or not. Yeah. So also, last thing I forgot to mention in the previous one. Yes, AI is there, but actually, if you actually try to apply AI in real world projects, you will find that it's still very lacking, especially because it doesn't know how to work with the data that you have. This is a problem that's being actively solved by something called RAGs. I think it's a retrieval augmented generation, but it's still a work in progress. And also, you need engineers who know this shit to kind of implement it on your data, right? But if you have a big company and your data is sensitive and you need to let these large language models get access to your data, which can, I don't know, like they could totally steal it, right? Of course, like there's like clauses and things like that, but the average Joe that you're gonna deal with at the company, they're not gonna know all these technical limitations and technical capacities, right? So um This is why even with AI, the job landscape, yeah, it changed, but fundamentally, there's still a lot of room for you. There's still a lot of room for a confident you who knows what they're about, right? And ultimately, I want you to be that kind of a person. I want you to be that kind of an engineer if you are going to enter the world of software engineering.